everyone, and welcome. I'm Jen Balco, founder of Always On My Way, and the lead author for the collaborative book project called Fierce Awakenings, calling in courage and confidence to walk life's spiral path, publishing in September. And I'm here today with one of our co-authors, Nicole Fabian. Hello, Nicole.
Hello, Jen. Thank you for this opportunity.
Nicole, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself to get us started?
Sure. My name is Nicole Fabian, and I live in Rochester, New York. I'm a certified special education teacher, and it's been my trade the last 20 years. Most recently, I've become a behavior consultant. I've had a passion for working with children since a very young age. I have a beautiful family, a daughter, Olivia, and a son, Carter, and a dog that my husband and I cherish. And most recently, I started a company, my own business, as an intuitive and also an education consultant. So I've been diving into Reiki and intuitive readings and helping support families as they navigate raising their children.
Good, good, good. We all need more of that in the world, Nicole, for sure. Tell us a little bit about the chapter you wrote, which is called How I Failed One Boy. Tell us about the fierce awakening that came in that, what inspired it, and how even now it's impacting you.
I think this story will always impact me. Around 2017, I lost one of my former students who was dear to my heart to an overdose. And at that moment, I began to question my role as an educator. I really felt that the story needed to be shared to show people, first of all, how wonderful and beautiful my student was and how he had struggled throughout his education and what could we have done differently to be able to support him on his journey. And I really truly believe Anthony wanted this story told, and he helped me write it. And I know the story also can help shift the education system so that we're looking at the whole child rather than looking at how the child can fit the system.
Right. How the child fits the system and how the system can fit the child. Yeah. What do you think is the core element there? I know there's several things that come up in your story, but what would you say is the core element in creating the awareness around that?
I see that we're becoming aware that we have many individuals that have a neurodivergent diagnosis. They are being asked and told to fit society standards and rather us embracing the unique and beautiful gifts that they have to share us. So I find that as we become more aware of our special gifts and the things that we have to offer, that if someone seems that they're struggling maybe with a disability or autism, some learning difficulties, ADHD, the system needs to be able to help support that and embrace it and show that they have so many powerful gifts that can contribute to society in a wonderful way, rather than have them conform and dim their light.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Anthony, since he is one of the protagonists in your story right alongside you. What light did you see in him? As you're talking about dimming the light, what light did you see in him, and how did he help you bring this light into your story today?
Yeah. There's a part that I share with him coming in with a big, huge pile of books, and he's just kind of quirky as a freshman in high school. And, he appears to me as a kid that just wanted to borrow reading and literature and things like that. And he did so well that people were like, okay, he doesn't need extra supports. Let's put him out into the general ed setting, the mainstream setting. And after time, his senior year, he came back and he was struggling. He was struggling with some stuff, and I ended up being becoming really good friends with his stepmother and father, and was able to kind of follow him after high school because I had a connection through someone that I was already friends with. And I witnessed from the outside that he was struggling with addiction, and he had the most beautiful soul. Like, he was just such a loving, fun, kind human. And to see him hurting in that way and thinking that he needed to numb himself with substances broke my heart. And one of the things that I will always regret or wish I had done was to tell him that while he was here in human form. The cool thing about Anthony that people will see is that my relationship with him didn't end after he passed. He began to come to me in dreams and in ways spiritually where I am able to connect with him. And I feel like he's with me all the time. Not all the time, but he's with me often. When I call him in, he's there, and he's excited to be here today, actually.
And every time you talk about him, I always get teary-eyed a bit because I can feel Anthony also's presence, and you tell these really amazing stories about him and laugh out loud moments too, right? Like where his spirit is communicating with you and holding that space. And I want to go back to the title. It makes me feel sometimes like how I felt one boy, right? You hold him so close. Can you talk a little bit about how this sense of, wow, I wish I had done a little bit more for him is now lighting the spark for you to continue to help other kids and other families? How are you carrying that now?
Yeah. There was some question whether to stick with the title because a lot of people didn't feel as if I failed Anthony. To me, I felt like the system and myself could have always done more to show more love and compassion and build skills. And we're always looking at the child in an academic sense, and we're not looking at the spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional side of them. And Anthony is just so full of beautiful energy. He made a huge impact on whoever he was around. And I don't want that to get lost. I want us to be able to find ways that we can help everyone shine. And he's sitting there rooting me on and saying, you have other things that you can do. You don't always have to be a typical teacher in a classroom. There's ways that you can share and explore so that I can share my gifts, but also sharing his story helps others as well. Does that answer your question? I get sometimes so emotional about him and losing him that I go a little bit on tangents.
No. It's so heart-centered, and your story with Anthony is so heart-centered that whatever comes up, I it's meant to be here in the moment. So yeah, you did. You did. And then it kind of brings up the next question, brings up, this next thing of what's your hope for the reader or other women, their families reading this story, or maybe even persons who are more sensitive, who have this need to want to be more of who they are, but are kind of stuck in the box of the system. What's your hope for them? How do you hope your story in this book is going to connect to them?
My hope is that people feel seen and held and loved for who they are, and that they're able to find some self-acceptance. So diving into their own exploration of who they are is something that I hope that they would take the invitation for. And also, like, resources that are out there. The more we learn about like astrology and human design and how we're built, and the more we're able to connect to our spiritual self, whether it's God, universe, just however they want to connect. I think when we bring in the product of like knowing me as a human and also that spiritual side, that people will have the opportunity to continue to grow and accept themselves and be able to serve others in beautiful and positive ways as well. And there's comfort in Anthony's story that when someone loses someone, I don't feel as my intuition or my gift is special or just for me. I feel like everyone has the ability to connect. And when we open up and we find the tools and practices to be able to open up and receive, we can connect. Everyone has the ability to connect with their loved ones that have crossed. And to help people do that is so beautiful, to be able to, like, sometimes I offer a message to someone from their loved one, or sometimes I'm able to tell them to connect with their inner self and be able to channel to what they need to hear. That's a beautiful gift that I wish more people knew, that it's not something that's just for certain people. We all have the power and can carry that.
Nicole, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. And I'm so glad that you recognize in you this gift that is yours, but that we all have. And how are you? You mentioned a couple examples of how you're bringing that in. How how are you bringing that in? Right? This, because I'm sure in some of the circles you're still in some of the circles we're all in, all of this stuff is like outside the normal thinking of how things need to be. How are you helping folks realize that there can be intuition in spirituality in whatever way that means for anybody, incorporated in the institutions that we've created that have left this apart, to create a more integrated system is not the word, right? But a more integrated approach to how we help each other. Tell us how you're doing this, because I'm fascinated.
I really feel like the education system, it's not like I'm going to go in and be like, oh, I speak to people that have crossed on the other side and I have all these, that's not going to flow right. But in the service fields, in education and in healthcare, and people that serve the frontline workers that are out there, they're there because they have compassion, empathy, and they have a connection, and they use their intuition daily. Like doctors and teachers, we're tuning into what people need and we're being able to serve it, and quick band-aid fixes. What I would love to do is look at how we can use our spiritual gifts and our intuition to serve purposefully and not just secretly. So setting up your classroom so that it's a safe, welcoming, warm environment that is set so that, and it's interesting because science and the spiritual world really do combine. There's always science to back up some of the things that I share and say. So when I'm talking about, the root chakra needing to feel safe and secure, we can bring in Maslow's hierarchy and need and know that that connects directly with that. And to mend or to mesh both together so that people are more accepting and willing to, like, explore that, we'll only have beautiful things, because once we welcome in our higher selves in spirit, only love will exist. And so I'm trying to do it in ways where speaking about my story, providing pamphlets, doing readings. But I know Anthony's like, we got to get going. We got to do some more work and expand this. So I would like to teach classes and be asked to be able to, visit other places and talk with people where I can center them in with the gifts that they have, and they can get filled with what I've been given to go out and serve.
Chapeau, as we say here, hat tip in your direction for sure. So what 5 qualities will it take to walk the spiral path, based either in your experience or what has helped you come this far, or what can help all of us come so far, however you want to take that question?
Yeah. And it is a spiral path. Like, my life has been full of so many ups and downs. And all the downs have really strengthened me and given me gifts to be able to better understand other people and to be a better, more loving person. So the first thing is I really needed to surrender, because there really wasn't answers on why I was going through the difficulties that I was. And the more I tried to figure it out and think in my head, the more sick I was starting to feel. So surrender and to trust, to release. And in this journey, patience and self-love. So those are the 5 qualities that, surrender, trust, release, have some patience and self-love as we go along the path. And I definitely use that as a mantra often to to keep myself going because I'm not at the finish line. My spiral path is going to continue, and I want big and beautiful things to happen. And you know what? I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do trust. Do trust.
It's been so curious in conversation with with most of the co-authors. I'm talking to all of you individually and to see which qualities come up. It's really beautiful because everybody has some of the same and some are really different. And you're looking, you're like, yeah, it takes all of it. It takes all of it in the becoming of who we are as we take the next step, right? And we get lost and we want to think it's linear all the time. We want to think it's linear, that we're doing this and it's going to produce this outcome. And like you just said, it's not finished. It's going to be the most unfinished masterpiece of our life, is our life, right? In a lot of ways. So, what words would you have to encourage people to keep making the turn, making the curve on their path?
I really think we are so hard on ourselves, and finding a way to take care of yourself and what that looks like for you individually is really important. So, how are you going to tend to you? Individuals that want to serve often give everything to everyone else before they give to themselves. And in time, we burn out and we aren't used to anyone and we become resentful and bitter. So, if we can fill our cup first and really make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, we're going to be so much better for other people. And I know that's not easy. So, starting in very small ways and finding a routine, like with me, I had to start meditating for 5 minutes per day just to kind of tune in. And that's where I began. And there wasn't an excuse that I couldn't fit 5 minutes in. But now I just want to keep like expanding and doing more self care. And the more I do that, I see that my life lights up in more beautiful ways. And the patience. We want to get to the finish line. And like you said, there really isn't a finish line. It's just a beautiful masterpiece. And to be patient with yourself. So, simple tools that helped me was like I started off with organizing things and making my space like clutter free. So I could bring it like instead of having clutter and things that brought me down, to bring more space and abundance and like beauty in my life. So I started with simple things like organizing, with meditating, with taking time to actually like listen to my body and what it needs, when it needed to go to the bathroom or when I needed to eat. Um, because the more in tune we are with ourselves and the more love we show ourselves, the more we encourage other people to do the same for themselves.
Thank you for sharing those practices. I was going to ask if you had a couple good places to start, right? Because sometimes it does feel super big, the things that we're called to do. And it is not always that big. Sometimes it is just sit for 5 minutes and be quiet. Just get that garbage off your desk that's been sitting there and as you said that, I said, oh yeah, I gotta do that. Also, I'm like, that's such a simple, meaningful thing to do. As we close out, any thoughts, words, guidance, sensations, feelings, knowing, anything that kind of comes through from you, from Anthony, anything that wants to be shared in these moments?
We are all love and we are loved. And we can get caught up in all the darkness in the world and all the bad things that are happening surrounding us. And if we can just be able to remember that we, like light, anytime you put any light in the room, it gets rid of the darkness. And I love that. Like a simple candle will get rid of the darkness. And the things that we don't see are more scary than the things we do see. those are important because we get so much fear in the unknown or in dark, and in that, in knowing that we have the light within us and that our connections with others, and reaching out and being in community, and meeting these women, that I've been able to create this beautiful book that is going to change and move people. We all have the ability to make change and to make this world a brighter place, and to not get caught up in the darkness and the unknown, to just have the faith and trust that we are here for a reason and we have beautiful gifts and things to share.
So nice to remember. We can say this all the time. It's just so nice to remember. I often think it's in the that we just keep forgetting. We just need to remember.
Yeah. One other thing is not comparing. So, like when I speak about my relationship with Spirit or with Anthony or anyone that's crossed over, it's not going to look the same for everyone. And to remember that your relationship is just as pure and perfect for you as it is for someone else. So the comparison, getting caught up in the comparison, isn't helpful to anyone. And just to know what works for you is perfectly perfect.
Perfectly perfect. Nicole, it's been so fun talking to you. Thank you for being here and sharing. Thank you for having the courage to share your story first. In the first place, I know it was a hard story to write, and for having the confidence to speak about it in this way. I really appreciate you, Nicole.
And I will be forever grateful for you. So thank you for this opportunity.